Are you ready to stop scrambling during your small group time? You need a flexible grouping plan, and I've got one you can use. Let me show you how to use your reading data to make it very simple and keep your groups on target. Now, you might already be grouping by skill, and that is great. But skill-based groups will stop working if you keep them the same throughout the year. Remember that skill-based groups are flexible. Students should be moving around these groups based on their needs. So in this video, I'm going to show you a simple 6-step system that helps you assess, group, teach, and adjust. And I'll show you the exact tool I use to make this easier. Now, most teachers will group their students at the beginning of the year based on the initial assessment and kind of leave the students there. I know I've been guilty of this in the past, and I see it happen all the time. And we are told to keep things consistent, so there is that to keep in mind. But the truth is that reading growth is not consistent. Some students will master a skill in 1 week, and some students will need 3 to 4 weeks to master that skill. So if we don't regroup often, we risk holding back certain students or missing something that they really need. And that's when your small groups stop working. Your lessons don't match, your students tune out, and we as teachers end up frustrated even though we're really trying to do our best. So let's talk about what the 6 steps are in the flexible grouping cycle. Step 1 is assess, step 2 is analyze, step 3 is group, step 4 is teach, step 5 is monitor, and step 6 is adjust. So let's walk through each step. Now, for assessment, you're initially going to assess at the beginning of the year and probably at the middle of the year as well, using the same assessment, something like the Quick Phonics Survey, DIBELS, AIMSweb, whatever it is that your school uses as their screener at the beginning of the year. That's going to work great for this. After that, you want to make sure that you are using quick focused checks to make sure that students are where they need to be. So this is things like quick phonics screeners. You can reuse the same one, oral reading fluency, comprehension questions, exit tickets, dictation, short tasks that you're doing in your small groups that you can do quickly, because that's the key, every couple of weeks. That way you can assess and see if your students need to be moved. Now, step 2 is analyzing your data. So you want to actually sort your data by skill and not level. You want to group kids by what they need next, which is usually the lowest level, not yet mastered. So hopefully you have a scope and sequence. That's what you're going to want to go by. And you're going to see, typically, most of them have the same order. You know, you're starting off with short vowel sounds and consonants, and then you're adding in some long vowel sounds, maybe closed and open syllable, vowel, consonant, E, digraphs, you know, it kind of all flows in the same kind of order. So if you have a student who is struggling with short vowel sounds and you have another student who lowest mastered skill, let's say, is vowel, consonant, E, they're not going to be in the same group because they're working on 2 different skills. One student really needs to work on those short vowel sounds and the other one needs vowel, consonant, E. Those are very different things. So that's what you want to try to look for. Look for these patterns in your data and try to create groups that are based on these skills, not their reading level, DRA, Lexile, none of that stuff, because that doesn't really give us any information. Just because their Lexile score is whatever the number is doesn't tell us which phonics skills they're still needing to work on. So that leads us into step 3, which is where we actually create the groups. So you want to have a manageable number of students. For most people, that's 3 to 6. Hopefully that's the case for you and it's not more than that. And you want to try your best to find these groups so that there's one shared skill, that lowest skill not yet mastered. For example, CVC words, digraphs, vowel teams, it could be fluency, it could be inferencing, it could be a handwriting thing. So anything that is in your scope and sequence that you are teaching in your reading block, that's what you want to look for. Whatever the students need most, try your best to group them so that they are working on the same or very closely related skill. So I have had in the past where I have students who are much older in middle school, but they're reading at a 1st or 2nd grade level. Most of my kids are not reading that low, right? So they're going to be grouped on, let's say, working on multisyllabic words or certain vowel teams. But these specific kids who are reading at such a low reading level, I'm going to have to pull them into a separate group. And maybe some of them are working on CVC words. Maybe another one is working on digraphs. Maybe another one is working on consonant blends. However, I can give them the same task. They can be word mapping using phoneme grapheme mapping boxes, or they can be using just Elkonin boxes to do segmenting and blending, or I can have them working on high frequency words, right? So I can give them the same task. However, I can change the text so they can have a different word list or a different decodable text to work off of, but they're performing the same task. They could be each doing a writing activity. They could be each maybe reading and rereading to improve their fluency, for example. So they can have the same task even though they have a different piece of content that they're working with. And that way we're still working on the same, it's not exactly the same skill, but it could be the same domain. Like it is all spelling, but they're working on different spelling words, if that makes sense. Now, step 4 is teaching. And your lessons are going to be simple because for the most part, it is one skill for that group. So your lesson is going to be tailored around that one skill. Everyone in the group works on the same thing. Your teaching is tighter, so much easier to plan. And even with this, you can take the same piece of content, let's say it's a decodable text, and you can use it across different groups and focus on different things. Maybe one group needs to work on just the high frequency words in that text. Maybe another group needs to work on the CVC words in that text. Maybe another group needs to work on their fluency, and instead they are rereading individual sentences. So you can pull different tasks from the same piece of text, and that can help to reduce your planning time. Now, step 5 is monitoring, and that is really just you taking quick notes, doing the regular assessments, using exit tickets, watching for signs of mastery during your lesson, and keeping your eyes open as you teach so you can see maybe this kid is ready to move or this kid is still struggling. I need to continue practicing with this. It's just keeping tabs on how your students are doing. And then step 6 is adjust. So every 2 to 4 weeks, as you do your quick assessment, you are going to move kids into new groups based on what they've mastered. This is fluid. As I said in the beginning, students are moving around because they learn at different rates. So here are a couple of classroom examples. Let's say one group is working on short vowels. You can start with Elkonin boxes, tap out the words like map and mat, and then do a quick word chain. Cut, cat, mat, mad. Now another group that is ready for digraphs, you could do word mapping with words like ship and chop, and use sound boxes and magnetic letters. A fluency group could read the same decodable passage 3 times with partner reading and phrase scooping to build their speed and expression. And let's say a 4th group is working on comprehension using decodable text to practice retelling and answering questions about key details. Each group is focused on one skill, and that makes your planning faster and instruction is more effective. Now, this isn't just a strategy, it's really aligned with what the research tells us is what's most effective to do with our students. If we look at Scarborough's reading rope, we can see that skilled reading is made up of multiple strands. And when we focus on one at a time, we help students strengthen those strands and build automaticity. We also have the National Reading Panel, which highlighted 5 key components of effective reading instruction: phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. So grouping by this method lets you target those components exactly when students need them the most. So if you're ready to try this, here's how I recommend you do it. First, you want to start with a short assessment, one of the ones I mentioned earlier, a phonics screener, a fluency passage, a comprehension prompt. Sort your notes by skill, form groups based on the skill that students have not yet mastered, according to your scope and sequence, and then teach that skill explicitly using routines you already know. Monitor and adjust every few weeks. And if you want help organizing this, let me show you a tool that I use to make this very easy for me. This is my reading intervention grouping tool, which makes it very easy for you and stores everything all in one place. So it includes the assessments, color-coded grouping, lesson plan template. So I'm going to show you how it works. You would enter your student name. So let's just enter one for here. And you would answer these assessment questions for the student. Can they blend individual sounds? Can they segment sounds? Can they isolate beginning and middle? So you would just go through like this, answering the questions. I'm just going to put yes for all of them. Okay, and then it will automatically place them in a group. Suggested skill area focus. So because I answered yes for this student, it's telling me they've mastered all skills. That's the group it put them in. And then it also will suggest an Aries phase. This gives you ideas of what you can work on in that group. Now, once you have a bunch of different students filled in, on this side over here, you're going to have a chart that shows you how many of your students are in each group. Now, automatically, you will have students grouped in this tab by skill. So this student is group student 1, placed into this group right here. And for this one, it says focus on any areas of weakness or provide enrichment. Since this student basically scored a perfect score, they did yes on everything, then they don't need it. But let's say you had a student that was placed in the fluency group, then these are the activities you could choose to do with them. Repeated reading, read alouds, reader's theater, vocabulary instruction, core reading, for example. If it was phonemic awareness, then here's some ideas: grapheme cards, sound wall, connect grapheme to phonemes, administer the past assessment, practice a target skill using manipulative. So it just gives you ideas specific to that skill area. Now, group by Aries phase, it also will tell you which phase of reading they are in. So this student is in the mastered one, so there's nothing recommended because they pretty much are at the top. But let's say you got a student who was in the partial alphabetic phase, then these are some activities you can do with these kids. Word chains, phoneme grapheme drills, dictation, word mapping, heart words, right? So this is super helpful for you to know what to plan in your small group time. Now, it also includes a phonics scope and sequence in case you don't have one. This is, again, helpful to know, like, okay, if my student was struggling with consonant blends, then here is the order that you can teach them in, and what comes next, basically. This also includes a student phonics checklist, so you can keep track of all of the phonics skills. So this goes across, it's a lot. All of the phonics skills that they know, you would just check them off. And then all the instructional strategies are here in this tab as well as a reference. So if you are making a plan and you're not sure, you can come here and you can see, okay, what are the types of activities that I can do for students who are in this group? Here is the small group lesson plan template. So here you would fill it out and it breaks it up into part 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is really modeled after the UFly's reading program. So it kind of follows that general flow. And so you can duplicate these tabs and stuff and you can create multiple lessons. Here are some recommended assessments. So if you're not sure, I have them all linked here. And then all the standards are here as well, preloaded for grades K through 5, all the ELA. And so when you are creating your lesson plan, you can actually select it from here. You also, this autofills the group. So which group it is that you're working on, you can select that here. So that is basically the tool that makes the grouping super easy. Really, it's this part here, the assessment that you would fill in, and then that automatically groups them into the different skill area groups and then gives you the recommended strategies. This is like this table right here, or this sheet right here is the gold right here. This is everything for you to make your planning super duper easy. So that is, or this is linked in the description of the video, so if you want to check it out. I also have a free version of this. It's not exactly the same, you can't save it, and it's got different questions and all that, but if you are using something, let me open it up. All right, so this is my free reading groups planner right here, and it does a very similar thing. So you will choose the assessment that you want to use, or you can use my 25 question assessment. That's the same as the one on the spreadsheet. So let's say we are doing the quick phonics screener. You would basically fill this out, answer the student's name. So let's do 1, and then I'm just gonna enter, whoops, that's 21, all of these so that you can see what it would look like. Let me put zeros in all of these so we don't get a perfect score for this one. Okay, you can add more students, so you would be able to add in all of your students and then click continue to groups, and it would group all your students into however many groups you select here. So 3, 4, or 5, how much time you want to spend with them. So we're assuming 20 minutes. If there's any special considerations you want to include here. And then it will tell you, so this is group 1, and this is focused on R-controlled vowels, because this student scored a 0% on the R-controlled vowels section. So that is what the student needs to work on, and or the group of students. Like I only put 1 student in, so it would be multiple. And then it will give you some suggested activities, things you can do with them. You can click on generate teaching plan and it will give you all of the groups here with the focus for the week. It will also link to any activities that I have in my shop that would work well for what is being recommended. the timings for the groups, and then it has some next steps in here as well. So none of this gets saved or anything. You can print it, but it's not going to save any of the data like it does on the spreadsheet. So that is the draw, and that you have to, come to my website to use it. So this is a free version, which I think is a great and accessible option if you're not able to invest in the spreadsheet option. So I will link both of those things in the description below this video. Check them out and give me your feedback. Let me know what you think. Grouping your students based on skills like this is going to make your teaching so much easier.